Introduction to Rev Up 12 Closing the Sale. Welcome to Rev Up 12 Closing the Sale, a critical course designed to guide you through the final stages of a real estate transaction. Whether you are representing buyers, sellers, or both, understanding the processes involved in closing a sale is essential to ensuring a smooth, legally compliant, and successful transaction. This course will walk you through the necessary steps from ordering property reports to managing final negotiations, all while ensuring that you comply with Arizona's real estate laws and regulations. The journey of closing a sale involves more than just paperwork. As a real estate professional in Arizona, you must be well-versed in key documents and processes, including the property profile, preliminary title report, closing settlement statement, escrow process, and various negotiation strategies. By the end of this course, you will have a comprehensive understanding of each step and how they work together to close a transaction efficiently. We will cover critical topics such as property profiles and preliminary title reports, learn how to order and interpret these documents, and understand the importance of title reports in confirming clear ownership and identifying potential issues. Settlement statements and escrow. Delve into the purpose of the settlement statement and your responsibilities in the escrow process to ensure all parties meet their obligations before closing. The pending path. Understand the tasks and due diligence required during the pending period and the roles various professionals play in helping you navigate this critical stage. Communication and follow-up. Explore effective strategies for keeping clients informed and maintaining strong relationships, while adhering to Arizona's legal requirements. Negotiation strategies. Learn how to manage multiple offers, counter-offers, and negotiations effectively to secure the best deal for your clients. Arizona-specific laws and regulations. Gain insights into the key Arizona Revised Statutes, ARS, and Real Estate Commissioner guidelines that govern your closing process. Case studies and practical applications. Engage in real-world examples and role-playing exercises that will prepare you for the challenges you'll face during the closing process. This course will equip you with the knowledge and tools to confidently manage the complexities of closing a real estate transaction in Arizona. By adhering to state laws and maintaining effective communication throughout the closing process, you can ensure a successful and compliant closing experience for all parties involved. Let's dive into the crucial first step, understanding the property profile and preliminary title report. These documents set the foundation for a successful transaction and are essential in protecting your client's interests. Property profile and preliminary title report. In Arizona, real estate transactions, the successful closing of a property sale depends on thorough due diligence and understanding the property's legal and financial standing. Among the first steps in the closing process are the ordering and interpretation of key documents such as the property profile and preliminary title report. These documents help ensure that the buyer is acquiring a property free from legal encumbrances and financial obligations that might affect their purchase. By understanding the purpose of these documents and how to interpret them, you will be better equipped to guide your clients through the closing process. Ordering and interpreting a property profile. A property profile is often one of the first reports ordered during the transaction process. It serves as an initial snapshot of the property and provides critical information such as tax history. The property profile will include the current tax status, outstanding taxes, and tax liens, if any. For example, in Arizona, a buyer may be concerned if the seller has unpaid property taxes, which could affect the transfer of title. Ownership history. This section will provide a detailed history of the property's ownership, including any transfers of ownership over the years. This helps confirm that the seller has the legal right to sell the property and that there are no conflicting ownership claims. Encumbrances. It identifies any current liens, mortgages, or judgments on the property. A lien could be the result of unpaid debts, such as contractor fees or unpaid utility bills, that could cloud the title and need to be resolved before closing. For example, if a property profile reveals that the seller has a lien from an unpaid contractor for a home renovation project, this information will prompt the agent to advise the seller to resolve this before closing to avoid delays. Differences between a property profile and a preliminary title report. While the property profile gives a broad overview of a property's history, the preliminary title report is a more detailed examination of the property's title. This report is often ordered once an offer is accepted and a contract is signed, usually during escrow. Key differences include title and ownership verification. The preliminary title report explicitly verifies the current title holder of the property, which could be important if multiple family members or business entities are involved in the transaction. Liens and judgments. It will list specific liens, judgments, or pending litigation that could affect the property. For example, if the preliminary title report reveals an IRS lien on the property due to unpaid taxes, this issue will need to be resolved before closing. Easements and rights of way. If there are easements or rights of way across the property, such as a utility company needing access to a portion of the property, these will be noted in the preliminary title report. In Arizona, this is critical as some properties may have multiple easements that can limit how the buyer can use the land. When and why a preliminary title report is ordered. The preliminary title report is typically ordered soon after the acceptance of an offer and is crucial to confirm the property's title is clear. It helps identify potential risks and protects the buyer by ensuring that no hidden claims or legal issues exist. For example, if a property has a mechanic's lien from a previous owner, the buyer needs to know this up front. In Arizona, this would likely be discovered in the preliminary title report, so the seller can address the issue before closing. The report will also confirm that the seller has the legal right to transfer title, which protects the buyer from disputes over ownership. The preliminary title report is not just for identifying issues. It's also essential for determining the specific steps needed to resolve those issues, such as paying off debts, obtaining lien releases, or satisfying legal requirements for a property transfer. Understanding key elements of a preliminary title report. When reviewing a preliminary title report, it's important to focus on several critical elements. Legal description. The report will contain the exact legal description of the property, which is important for verifying the exact location and boundaries of the land. This description is legally binding and must match the property being sold. Title vesting. This section will specify the current owners and their relationship to the property, e.g., individual ownership, joint tenancy. It ensures that the party selling the property has the right to do so. Liens and encumbrances. The preliminary title report will list any liens or other encumbrances on the property. In Arizona, unpaid property taxes or judgments from previous owners can create roadblocks during closing and must be cleared before the property transfer can take place. Easements and restrictions. The report will outline any easements or restrictions on the property. For instance, if the property has an easement for a neighboring property to access a driveway, this information must be disclosed to the buyer. Example: suppose a buyer is purchasing land for development. If the preliminary title report reveals a zoning restriction that prevents building certain types of structures on the land, the buyer may decide to renegotiate or walk away from the deal. Mastering the interpretation of the property profile and preliminary title report is essential for real estate professionals in Arizona. These documents are not only critical for clearing the title and avoiding legal issues, but also provide valuable insights into the property's financial and legal standing. As a real estate agent or broker, your ability to order, read, and understand these reports will directly impact your success in closing deals and helping your clients avoid pitfalls. By ensuring you and your clients fully understand these reports, you can avoid delays in closing and ensure a smooth transition of ownership. In Arizona, where real estate transactions are governed by specific state laws and regulations, these skills are indispensable for effective real estate practice. Closing settlement statement and escrow. The closing process in a real estate transaction is a critical step where ownership of the property is transferred from the seller to the buyer. A key document involved in this process is the closing settlement statement, which outlines the final financial details of the transaction. This document serves as a comprehensive summary of all costs and fees associated with the sale, detailing who is responsible for each cost and ensuring that all parties are aware of their financial obligations. Additionally, the escrow process plays a crucial role in ensuring that all parties fulfill their contractual obligations before the transaction is finalized. In Arizona, as in other states, understanding the purpose of the closing settlement statement and the role of escrow is vital for real estate professionals. By comprehensively understanding these aspects, you will be equipped to guide your clients through the final stages of their real estate transactions, ensuring a smooth and legally sound closing. Purpose and components of a settlement statement. The closing settlement statement, also known as the HUD-1 settlement statement or the closing disclosure, CD, in some cases serves as the final accounting of all the costs and fees involved in the transaction. It includes detailed information about the purchase price, closing costs, and the distribution of funds, ensuring all parties are paid appropriately. In Arizona, as per Arizona Real Estate Commissioner Guidelines and RESPA, Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act, the settlement statement must be provided to both the buyer and seller at least 3 days prior to closing for their review. This document ensures transparency and helps prevent misunderstandings between the buyer, seller, and any other parties involved in the transaction. Key components of the settlement statement include purchase price, the agreed-upon price of the property, as stipulated in the contract. Credits and debits. This section lists any credits, money owed to the buyer or seller, such as the buyer's earnest money deposit or the seller's pro-rated property taxes, and debits, money owed by the buyer or seller, such as closing costs, commissions, or unpaid utilities. Prorations. Any expenses that need to be divided between the buyer and seller, such as property taxes or homeowners association fees, based on the closing date. Lender's costs. If the buyer is financing the purchase, the lender's fees for processing the loan are listed here. Seller's proceeds. This section details the final amount the seller will receive after the sale, including deductions for any unpaid debts or costs. For example, in an Arizona transaction, if the buyer and seller have agreed that property taxes will be prorated, the settlement statement will reflect the seller's share of the taxes up to the closing date and the buyer's share from the closing date onward. Responsibilities of parties in the escrow process. Escrow is a neutral third-party process that ensures that all parties meet their obligations before the transfer of ownership takes place. The escrow process is critical in Arizona real estate transactions and is typically managed by an escrow officer or a title company. The key responsibilities of the parties involved in escrow are as follows. Buyer. The buyer is responsible for submitting the required funds for the purchase, including the down payment, closing costs, and any applicable fees. The buyer must also ensure that their financing is in place and that all conditions related to their loan, such as the final loan approval, are met. Seller. The seller's responsibilities include providing the buyer with a clear title, free from liens or claims, unless otherwise agreed, and disclosing any known issues with the property. The seller must also ensure that all contractual obligations, such as repairs or items included in the sale, are completed prior to closing. Escrow officer, title company. The escrow officer or title company is responsible for ensuring that all documentation is properly executed, all funds are distributed as required, and the transaction is closed according to the terms outlined in the contract. This includes facilitating the transfer of the deed and ensuring the buyer's funds are appropriately disbursed to the seller. In Arizona, escrow officers also play a vital role in ensuring compliance with state laws, such as the Arizona Title Insurance Act, and ensuring the transaction adheres to RESPA guidelines for federal regulations. Opening escrow and the timelines involved. Opening escrow is one of the first steps in the final stages of a real estate transaction. Once an offer is accepted and a purchase agreement is signed, the parties agree to open escrow with a neutral third-party provider, typically a title company or escrow officer. In Arizona, the Arizona Department of Financial Institutions, DFI, oversees escrow companies and ensures that they operate in compliance with state law. Escrow timelines. Escrow. Opening. This occurs immediately after the contract is signed. The buyer deposits their earnest money with the escrow company, and the escrow officer begins reviewing the contract and relevant documents. Due diligence period. During this period, the buyer conducts inspections, reviews disclosures, and may negotiate repairs or credits. The seller works on meeting any agreed-upon conditions, such as completing repairs or providing documents. Title search and report. The escrow officer or title company conducts a title search to confirm the ownership history and check for any encumbrances, liens, or legal issues with the property. Closing day. On the closing day, the escrow officer ensures that all documents are signed, the funds are disbursed correctly, and the property's title is transferred to the buyer. The closing can take place once all parties have met their obligations and the required documents are completed. Escrow typically takes 30 to 45 days in Arizona, though it can vary based on the complexity of the transaction, such as if there are issues with the title or loan approval. Importance of time is of the essence in real estate transactions. In Arizona real estate contracts, the phrase "time is of the essence" holds significant legal weight. This means that the parties involved in the transaction must adhere to the specific timelines outlined in the contract. If a party fails to meet a deadline, it may constitute a breach of contract, which could lead to delays, financial penalties, or even the termination of the transaction. For example, if a buyer fails to provide the necessary documentation for financing by the agreed-upon deadline, the seller may have the right to terminate the agreement. Similarly, if the seller does not vacate the property on the closing date, the buyer may take legal action to enforce the terms of the contract. Practical example. In a typical Arizona real estate transaction, if the buyer is unable to secure financing by the loan contingency removal date, the seller could terminate the contract and keep the earnest money deposit as liquidated damages. This reinforces the importance of adhering to timelines in the closing process. Understanding the closing settlement statement and the escrow process is fundamental for any real estate professional operating in Arizona. These documents ensure transparency, protect all parties, and help facilitate a smooth closing. By understanding the components of the settlement statement and the timelines involved in escrow, you will be able to guide your clients through the final steps of their transaction with confidence. Moreover, the concept of time is of the essence underscores the importance of meeting deadlines and fulfilling obligations within the specified timeframes to avoid complications that could derail the closing process. By mastering these elements, you can help ensure that the transaction concludes successfully and without delays. Navigating the pending path. Successfully. The pending path refers to the period between the acceptance of an offer and the closing of the sale. During this period, both the buyer and the seller must fulfill specific contractual obligations, complete due diligence, and address any issues that arise. The success of this stage is critical to the timely and smooth closing of the transaction. As a real estate professional in Arizona, it is essential to understand the steps, responsibilities, and roles involved to help guide your clients through this often complex phase. Navigating the pending path involves careful coordination of various tasks, from inspections and appraisals to managing contingencies. By managing expectations and keeping a proactive approach, you can ensure that the sale proceeds without unnecessary delays or complications. Steps to successfully navigate through the pending period. Navigating the pending period requires careful attention to deadlines and effective communication between all parties involved in the transaction. The following steps outline the general process for managing this phase. Order inspections and appraisals. After the contract is signed, the buyer should arrange for any required inspections, e.g., home inspection, pest inspection, and an appraisal. In Arizona, these are typically required for finance transactions. The lender will require an appraisal to determine the property's market value, while inspections allow the buyer to assess the property's condition. Review seller disclosures. The seller must provide a set of disclosures to the buyer detailing known defects, environmental hazards, or other significant issues with the property within 3 days of the contract acceptance. The buyer should review these disclosures and raise any concerns with the seller within 5 days of receipt. In Arizona, the seller's property disclosure statement, SPDS, is required by law to be completed by the seller and provided to the buyer early in the transaction. Negotiate repairs or credits. If the inspections reveal issues, the buyer may request repairs, credits, or price reductions from the seller. These negotiations are an essential part of the pending path, and the outcome can significantly affect the final sale price or terms of the contract. Coordinate financing and loan approval. For buyers using financing, this is the period when the loan must be finalized. The buyer should work closely with their lender to ensure that all documentation is in place for the loan to be approved. Arizona law requires that the buyer receive a loan commitment within the agreed-upon timeframe. Clear title issues. During this time, the escrow company or title company will perform a title search to ensure the property has a clear title, free of liens or legal claims. If there are title issues, such as unpaid property taxes or an unresolved mechanics lien, these must be resolved before closing. Review contingencies. Most real estate contracts contain contingencies, such as financing, inspection, or appraisal contingencies. It is crucial to monitor these deadlines and take necessary actions, such as removing contingencies once satisfied or negotiating extensions if necessary. Typical due diligence tasks and required timeframes. Due diligence is an essential part of the pending period. This process involves various activities and inspections that protect the buyer's interests and ensure they are fully informed about the property they are purchasing. Home inspections. Buyers typically have a specified number of days, often 10-15 days in Arizona, to schedule and complete home inspections. The home inspection allows the buyer to identify issues like structural damage, plumbing problems, or electrical issues. Appraisal. If the buyer is obtaining financing, the lender will order an appraisal, typically within 7 to 10 days after the contract is signed. This ensures that the property is worth the loan amount. Any discrepancies between the appraised value and the agreed-upon sale price can trigger renegotiations. Pest inspections. If required, a pest inspection is typically ordered by the buyer within the due diligence period. Arizona is known for issues such as termites and dry rot, so this inspection is particularly important. Title search. The title company typically performs a title search after escrow is opened, and this process can take anywhere from a few days to a week. The goal is to identify any liens, judgments, or ownership issues that could delay closing. Loan approval. In the case of finance transactions, the buyer's lender will review the buyer's financial documents and the property's appraisal to ensure that the buyer qualifies for the loan. This process can take anywhere from a few days to several weeks, depending on the lender's processes. In Arizona, these timelines are often outlined in the Residential Purchase Agreement, RPA, which is required to be completed and signed by both parties to ensure that all deadlines are met. Contingency removal processes and implications. Contingencies are an essential part of the purchase agreement, as they provide the buyer with protections and the option to cancel the contract under specific conditions. The most common contingencies in Arizona real estate transactions include financing contingency. This contingency ensures that the buyer can secure financing. If the buyer is unable to secure a loan, they can cancel the contract without penalty. The buyer must remove this contingency once they receive loan approval. Inspection contingency. This contingency allows the buyer to cancel or renegotiate the terms of the agreement based on the results of inspections. If significant issues are found, the buyer can either request repairs, ask for a credit, or back out of the deal. Appraisal contingency. If the appraisal comes in lower than the agreed-upon purchase price, the buyer has the option to renegotiate or cancel the contract. The process of removing contingencies in Arizona real estate is generally straightforward, but must be done within the time frames specified in the purchase agreement. For example, in the case of the inspection contingency, the buyer must inform the seller of any concerns or requests for repairs by a specified date, usually within 10-15 days of signing the agreement. If the buyer is satisfied with the inspections or the seller addresses the issues, the contingency can be removed by submitting a written statement. Failure to remove contingencies within the designated timeframes can result in the buyer forfeiting their right to cancel the contract based on those contingencies. Roles of various professionals in assisting with pending items. Several professionals play vital roles during the pending period to ensure that all aspects of the transaction are handled properly. These include real estate agent, broker. The agent or broker is responsible for guiding the client through the pending process, ensuring that deadlines are met, and helping negotiate repairs, credits, or price adjustments. The agent should maintain clear communication with both the buyer and seller and stay on top of all contract deadlines. Escrow officer. The escrow officer is responsible for managing the escrow account, ensuring that funds are properly held and disbursed, and that all documents are signed correctly. They also facilitate the closing process and ensure that title issues are resolved. Title company. The title company performs the title search to ensure that the property's title is clear. If any issues are discovered, such as unpaid liens or judgments, the title company will work to resolve them before closing. Home inspector. The home inspector is responsible for evaluating the physical condition of the property. Their findings can significantly impact the transaction, as they help identify hidden defects or issues that may require attention. Lender. The lender is responsible for reviewing the buyer's financial situation and approving the loan. They are also responsible for ordering the appraisal and ensuring that the buyer's financing is in place by the closing date. Successfully navigating the pending path requires proactive communication, careful attention to deadlines, and coordination between various professionals. By staying organized, managing contingencies effectively, and ensuring that due diligence tasks are completed on time, real estate professionals can help ensure that the transaction moves smoothly toward closing. Understanding the roles and responsibilities of each party involved is essential to avoid delays and ensure a successful closing in Arizona's real estate market. Communication and follow-up. Effective communication is the backbone of any successful real estate transaction, particularly during the closing process. As an Arizona real estate professional, your ability to communicate clearly and proactively with all parties involved in the transaction can make the difference between a smooth, successful closing and a transaction that is delayed or even falls apart. Communication is not just about keeping clients informed, it's about building trust, managing expectations, and ensuring that everyone is on the same page. During the closing phase, communication should be clear, timely, and continuous. It is essential to keep the buyer, seller, escrow officers, lenders, inspectors, and other involved professionals well informed about the progress of the transaction. Proactive communication helps resolve issues before they become problems, and follow-up ensures that no critical tasks or deadlines are overlooked. Importance of effective communication in closing a sale. Throughout the closing process, effective communication is essential to keep things moving forward and to ensure all parties meet their obligations. As an agent or broker, you need to set expectations. At the outset of a transaction, make sure that both the buyer and the seller understand their roles, obligations, and the timeline involved in closing. This can help prevent misunderstandings down the line. Maintain transparency. Keeping your clients informed about the progress of their transaction and any issues that arise is crucial. In Arizona, where deadlines are strictly defined by contracts and the Arizona Real Estate Commission, transparency helps avoid penalties or misunderstandings. If a seller delays a necessary repair, or if an appraisal comes in lower than expected, the buyer must be informed immediately so they can address it in a timely manner. Proactive problem solving. Effective communication enables agents to address potential issues before they affect the closing. For instance, if a title issue is found late in the process, promptly communicating with the title company and negotiating a resolution can help prevent delays. A real estate agent who is aware of potential roadblocks and communicates these to their clients or colleagues early on can be a critical asset in keeping the sale on track. Example: suppose the buyer's lender delays the loan approval, and the closing date is at risk. An agent who communicates this proactively to the seller can help renegotiate a new closing date or temporarily amend the agreement to prevent the transaction from falling apart. Strategies for lead follow-up and maintaining client relationships. Even after the transaction is completed, maintaining strong communication with your clients is essential for ongoing success. Following up and nurturing client relationships can lead to repeat business, referrals, and long-term success in your real estate career. Here are some key strategies for maintaining client relationships. Post-closing. Follow-up. After closing, take the time to follow up with both the buyer and seller. A thank you note, phone call, or email can show appreciation and keep the lines of communication open for future opportunities. In Arizona, the real estate business thrives on referrals, and maintaining positive client relationships can yield new leads in the future. Regular check-ins. Periodically check in with your past clients to offer assistance with home maintenance, market updates, or any other real estate needs. For instance, sending a market update or a reminder about property tax deadlines can be valuable, showing your clients that you care even after the deal is done. Leverage technology. Tools like CRM, customer relationship management. Systems can help you track important dates, follow up tasks, and maintain ongoing communication with clients. Use automated reminders to send clients relevant market updates or newsletters about homeownership tips. Example: if a client recently purchased a home, you might follow up by sending them a market analysis or information about home improvement grants available in Arizona. This not only provides value, but reinforces your role as a trusted expert in the industry. Legal obligations. Under agency disclosure and seller representation agreements. In Arizona, real estate professionals are legally obligated to adhere to specific agency disclosure and seller representation requirements. These obligations are intended to protect the interests of the client and ensure that all parties understand the agent's role and responsibilities. Agency disclosure. Arizona law mandates that real estate agents disclose to all parties whether they are representing the buyer, the seller, or both in a transaction. This disclosure must be made in writing and is typically included in the agency disclosure statement. This document helps clarify who the agent is working for and ensures that both the buyer and seller understand the nature of the representation. Seller representation agreements. A seller representation agreement outlines the terms under which an agent will represent a seller in the sale of their property. It specifies the agent's duties, compensation, and the duration of the agreement. In Arizona, these agreements are standard practice, and the terms are typically outlined in the exclusive right to sell listing agreement. The agent is responsible for representing the seller's best interests, negotiating favorable terms, and ensuring the seller complies with all disclosure and contractual obligations. Failure to meet these obligations can result in legal consequences, including potential disciplinary action by the Arizona Department of Real Estate, ADRE. For example, failing to properly disclose agency relationships or not honoring the terms of the seller representation agreement can lead to complaints filed against the agent. Example: if an agent is representing both the buyer and the seller, a dual agency situation, they must disclose this to both parties and obtain written consent. Failing to do so could result in a legal violation. Use of MLS listing forms and seller disclosures in the closing process. In Arizona, the Multiple Listing Service, MLS, and Seller's Property Disclosure Statement, SPDS, are critical tools for communication during the closing process. MLS listing forms. The MLS is the primary platform where properties are listed for sale in Arizona. When a listing agent enters a property into the MLS, they are required to provide accurate and up-to-date information about the property's features, price, and condition. This includes details on any existing liens, repairs, or special features of the property. Misleading or inaccurate information in the MLS can result in legal and ethical violations, so real estate professionals must ensure that all information is correct and transparent. Seller disclosures. The SPDS is a key disclosure document that the seller must complete and provide to the buyer early in the transaction. This document includes information about the property's condition, history, and any known issues. It helps the buyer make an informed decision and protects the seller from future claims of undisclosed defects. In Arizona, failure to provide the SPDS or providing incomplete or inaccurate disclosures can lead to legal issues, including the possibility of the buyer rescinding the contract or filing a lawsuit. Example: if a seller discloses that their property has had a history of flooding, this must be communicated clearly in the SPDS. A buyer must be made fully aware of any such issues before proceeding with the sale. Effective communication and follow-up during the closing process are essential for ensuring a successful and legally compliant transaction in Arizona. By managing client relationships proactively, meeting legal obligations, and leveraging tools like the MLS and seller disclosures, real estate professionals can foster positive relationships with their clients, maintain trust, and avoid potential issues during the closing process. As a real estate professional, your communication skills will directly impact your reputation and ability to close deals efficiently and successfully. Negotiation strategies, counteroffers, and multiple offers. Negotiation is an art form in real estate, and effective negotiation strategies can make or break a deal, particularly during the closing stages of a transaction. Whether you're dealing with counteroffers, multiple offers, or a combination of both, understanding the nuances of these situations is critical. In Arizona's competitive real estate market, these scenarios are common, and knowing how to navigate them is essential to ensuring a successful closing. In this section, we will explore how to handle counteroffers and multiple offers effectively, the strategies for engaging in multiple counteroffers, and the legal considerations and disclosures that apply when multiple parties are competing for the same property. Handling counteroffers effectively. A counteroffer occurs when one party, usually the seller, responds to an offer made by another party, usually the buyer, with changes to the original terms. It is an essential part of the negotiation process and can often result in a successful sale. However, managing counteroffers requires careful attention to detail and strategy, timing and response. When a counteroffer is made, it is important for the buyer or seller to respond promptly. Delaying a response can give the other party time to move on to another potential buyer or seller. In Arizona, time is of the essence in real estate contracts, and any delay in responding could jeopardize the entire transaction. If a buyer or seller does not respond to a counteroffer within the designated time frame, the offer could expire, and the negotiation will end. Clear communication. When presenting a counteroffer, it is essential to communicate the reasoning behind the changes to the other party. For example, a seller may counter an offer because they feel the price is too low, or a buyer may counter because they are requesting repairs based on the home inspection results. Effective communication helps both parties understand each other's position and opens the door to finding common ground. Consideration of terms. When reviewing a counteroffer, consider not just the price, but also other terms such as contingencies, repair requests, closing timelines, and other contractual obligations. These elements can significantly affect the overall outcome of the deal. For example, a higher offer price may not be as attractive to the seller if the buyer is requesting an extended closing date or making the sale contingent on the sale of their existing property. Example: Suppose a buyer offers $350,000 for a property listed at $375,000. The seller may counter with an offer of $365,000, along with a request for the buyer to cover some closing costs. The buyer must then decide whether to accept the counteroffer, propose another counteroffer, or walk away. Managing situations with multiple offers on a property. Multiple offers occur when more than one buyer expresses interest in a property, often leading to a competitive bidding situation. In Arizona's real estate market, this scenario is common in high-demand areas, and managing it effectively requires careful handling of the offers and communication with all parties involved. Reviewing all offers. When a seller receives multiple offers, it is important to review each one carefully. While price is often the most important factor, other terms such as contingencies, financing, and closing dates should also be considered. A well-structured offer with fewer contingencies or a faster closing date may be more attractive than a higher-priced offer with many conditions. Communicating with buyers. If you are representing the seller, it's important to communicate transparently with all buyers about the fact that multiple offers have been received. In Arizona, the seller is not legally required to disclose the terms of other offers to each buyer, but doing so can foster a sense of fairness and encourage stronger offers. Best and final offers. When there are multiple offers, it is common for the seller to request best and final offers from all interested parties. This strategy allows buyers to submit their highest and most competitive offers, which can lead to a higher sale price or better terms for the seller. Example, a property listed for $400,000 receives 3 offers. Offer 1 is for $400,000 with a 30-day close. Offer 2 is for $410,000 but with a 45-day close. And Offer 3 is for $405,000 with no contingencies. In this case, the seller might lean toward Offer 3 due to the lack of contingencies, despite it being slightly lower than Offer 2. Strategies for engaging in multiple counteroffers. When multiple counteroffers are involved, managing the back-and-forth communication can be challenging. However, with a clear strategy, you can facilitate successful negotiations and move the transaction toward closing. Set clear deadlines. In the case of multiple counteroffers, it's important to establish deadlines for responses. Setting clear timelines ensures that all parties are on the same page and helps avoid unnecessary delays. In Arizona, where transactions often move quickly, sticking to deadlines is vital for maintaining momentum. Focus on win-win solutions. In some cases, both parties may not be able to agree on price or terms right away. In these situations, find creative solutions that can benefit both sides. For example, if the seller is unwilling to lower the price, they may be willing to offer a repair credit or agree to cover some of the buyer's closing costs. Keep negotiations. Professional. Multiple counteroffers can sometimes lead to emotional responses from either the buyer or the seller. As a professional, it's essential to keep the negotiations focused on the terms of the deal and avoid unnecessary conflict or escalation. Document everything. Always document any changes to the offer or counteroffer in writing. This is especially important when negotiating multiple counteroffers, as verbal agreements or misunderstandings can lead to disputes later on. Use Arizona's Residential Purchase Agreement, RPA forms, to ensure that all counteroffers and responses are officially recorded. Example: in a situation where a buyer has submitted a low offer on a property, the seller counters with a higher price, and the buyer counters again with a slightly higher offer but requests repairs. By clearly documenting each counteroffer and agreeing to specific terms, both parties can reach a mutual agreement and proceed with the sale. Legal considerations and disclosures in competitive offer scenarios. In Arizona, real estate professionals must be mindful of specific legal considerations and disclosures when dealing with multiple offers or counteroffers. These include fair housing compliance. As a real estate professional, it is essential to ensure that all offers are handled fairly and in compliance with Arizona fair housing laws. Discriminating against buyers based on race, color, religion, sex, familial status, national origin, or disability is prohibited. Dual agency. If you are representing both the buyer and the seller in a transaction, dual agency, you must disclose this relationship to both parties and obtain written consent. In Arizona, dual agency must be disclosed and consented to in writing, as per ARS paragraph 32-2156. Material facts. Arizona law requires real estate professionals to disclose any material facts that could affect the transaction. For example, if you are managing multiple offers and you know that one buyer has certain contingencies that could delay closing, it's important to communicate this to the seller. Similarly, buyers must be informed of any issues that could affect their ability to secure financing or close the deal. Escalation clauses. If an offer includes an escalation clause, which automatically increases the offer price if another offer is received, be aware of how this may affect the negotiations. In Arizona, while escalation clauses are legal, they must be clearly written and easily understood by all parties involved. Example: a buyer submits an offer with an escalation clause stating that their offer will automatically increase by $5,000 above any competing offer, up to a maximum of $425,000. The seller must ensure that this escalation clause is clear and that both parties understand how it will work in practice. Handling counter-offers and managing multiple offers are complex and dynamic aspects of the real estate negotiation process. By adopting clear negotiation strategies, adhering to deadlines, and focusing on win-win solutions, real estate professionals can successfully guide their clients through competitive offer scenarios. Understanding the legal considerations and maintaining transparency with all parties ensures a fair and ethical process. With the right approach, you can help your clients navigate the intricacies of counteroffers and multiple offers, ultimately leading to a successful closing. Arizona-specific laws and regulations. In Arizona, real estate transactions are governed by a combination of state laws, Arizona Real Estate Commissioner guidelines, and industry standards set by organizations like the Arizona Association of Realtors, AAR. Understanding these Arizona-specific regulations is crucial for real estate professionals, as they directly affect how transactions are conducted, the forms required, and the disclosures that must be made. This section will provide an overview of the relevant Arizona Revised Statutes, ARS, related to real estate transactions, the guidelines and requirements set forth by the Arizona Real Estate Commissioner, and the importance of compliance with AAR forms and standards. By understanding these laws and regulations, real estate professionals can ensure that they are operating within the legal framework, protecting both their clients and themselves during the closing process. Relevant Arizona Revised Statutes, ARS, related to real estate transactions. The Arizona Revised Statutes, ARS, contain a comprehensive body of laws that govern real estate transactions within the state. These statutes address various aspects of real estate law, from the sale and transfer of property to agency relationships and disclosures. ARS Paragraph 32-2101, Arizona Real Estate Law. This statute establishes the rules and regulations governing the practice of real estate in Arizona. It includes the establishment of the Arizona Department of Real Estate, ADRE, the licensing requirements for real estate professionals, and the duties and responsibilities of brokers and salespersons. ARS Paragraph 32-2155, Agency Relationship. This statute outlines the legal requirements for agency relationships in real estate transactions, including disclosure requirements and the fiduciary duties owed to clients. Under this law, agents must disclose to both the buyer and seller the nature of the agency relationship at the earliest opportunity. ARS Paragraph 33-422, Affidavit of Disclosure. In Arizona, the Affidavit of Disclosure is a legal document that sellers must provide to buyers for properties located in unincorporated areas. This disclosure must include information about the condition of the property, known defects, and any encumbrances or easements on the property. The affidavit is designed to protect buyers and ensure transparency. ARS, Paragraph 32, 2130, Real Estate Commission and Fees. This statute governs how real estate commissions are structured and how disputes related to commissions should be handled in Arizona. It is crucial for real estate professionals to understand how commissions are calculated and the legal implications of commission agreements. ARS Parv 33431, Deeds and Transfer of Property. This statute addresses the proper procedures for transferring property ownership in Arizona. It includes requirements for the execution, delivery, and recording of deeds, which is a critical part of the closing process. Example: if a seller fails to provide the affidavit of disclosure for a property located in an unincorporated area, the buyer may have grounds to cancel the contract or pursue legal action, which underscores the importance of complying with ARS Paragraph 33-422, Arizona Real Estate Commissioner Guidelines and Requirements. The Arizona Real Estate Commissioner provides additional guidance and sets forth rules that real estate professionals must follow to ensure legal compliance in the state. These guidelines cover a wide range of topics, from transaction management to advertising practices, and help clarify how Arizona statutes should be applied in real-world situations. AAC R4-28-1101, Standards of Practice and Competence. This regulation outlines the minimum standards of practice that real estate licensees must adhere to in Arizona. It requires agents and brokers to exercise reasonable care and skill when handling transactions, ensuring that all material facts are communicated to clients and that clients' interests are protected. AAC R4-28-1102, Property Negotiations. This regulation specifies the guidelines under which property negotiations should occur. For example, it outlines when a real estate professional can directly negotiate with a principal, bypassing the broker, and the circumstances under which this is allowed in Arizona. AAC R4-28-1104, Agency Disclosure. The Commissioner's guidelines reinforce the importance of full agency disclosure, ensuring that clients are aware of the agent's role in the transaction. This includes the requirement to disclose whether an agent represents the buyer, the seller, or both in the transaction. Dual agency. AAC R4-28-1103, Supervision and Control. This regulation provides the responsibilities of designated brokers in Arizona real estate transactions, specifically concerning the supervision of associates and compliance with laws and regulations. Example: if a real estate agent in Arizona fails to properly disclose dual agency in a transaction, as required by AAC R4-28-1104, they could face disciplinary action from the Arizona Department of Real Estate, including license suspension or revocation. Compliance with Arizona Association of Realtors, AAR, Forms and Standards. The Arizona Association of Realtors, AAR, plays a vital role in setting industry standards and providing real estate professionals with the necessary tools to conduct transactions in compliance with Arizona law. The AAR provides various forms, including the residential purchase contract and seller's property disclosure statement, that are widely used in real estate transactions throughout the state. AAR forms are designed to comply with Arizona state laws and ensure that all necessary disclosures and contractual terms are included in a real estate transaction. For example, the Residential Purchase Contract, RPC, is a standard form used in Arizona to outline the terms of the sale, including contingencies, pricing, and closing conditions. This form is essential for ensuring that both buyers and sellers understand their rights and obligations. Standard of Practice. The AAR sets high standards for professional conduct, emphasizing ethical practices, accurate disclosures, and transparency in all aspects of a transaction. Real estate professionals who use AAR forms are expected to uphold these standards, ensuring that transactions are conducted legally and ethically. Continuing education. The AAR also provides educational opportunities for real estate professionals to stay updated on changes in Arizona law, industry best practices, and new forms. These continuing education programs are essential for maintaining compliance with state regulations. Example: if a real estate professional fails to use the most current version of the residential purchase contract provided by the AAR, the transaction could be at risk of legal challenges or delays, particularly if the form does not include the latest regulatory changes. Implications of Arizona-specific laws on closing procedures and disclosures. Arizona-specific laws and regulations have a direct impact on the closing process and required disclosures. Understanding these laws is essential for ensuring that transactions are completed legally and smoothly. Closing procedures. Arizona law requires that a title company or escrow officer be responsible for conducting the closing process. They ensure that the transaction complies with state regulations, including verifying that the seller provides clear title, ensuring that all necessary documents are executed, and ensuring that the buyer receives all disclosures required by law. Disclosures. The seller is required to provide certain disclosures under Arizona law. For example, the seller's property disclosure statement must be completed by the seller and provided to the buyer, detailing any known defects or issues with the property. This disclosure is a legal requirement under ARS paragraph 33-422 and protects both the seller and the buyer by ensuring that all relevant information about the property is made available before the sale. Liability and risks. Failure to comply with Arizona laws related to disclosures, title searches, or escrow procedures can lead to legal liabilities for both real estate professionals and their clients. For example, if the buyer is not properly informed about significant defects in the property, such as foundation issues, they may be able to take legal action against the seller or agent. Example: a buyer might sue the seller for damages if the seller fails to disclose a known issue, such as a past flooding problem, which was required to be reported on the seller's property disclosure statement. This is why it's essential for real estate professionals to ensure that all disclosures are accurate and complete. Understanding Arizona-specific laws and regulations is essential for real estate professionals in the state. By adhering to the Arizona Revised Statutes, ARS, following the guidelines set forth by the Arizona Real Estate Commissioner, and complying with the Arizona Association of Realtors, AAR standards and forms, you ensure that your transactions are legally compliant, ethical, and smooth. These laws and regulations help protect all parties involved, ensure transparency, and minimize the risks of legal disputes. By keeping up to date with Arizona-specific legal requirements, real estate professionals can successfully navigate the complex landscape of real estate transactions in the state. Case studies and practical applications. Theoretical knowledge is essential, but real-world experience is invaluable when it comes to closing real estate transactions. By examining case studies and practical examples, you can gain insights into how the concepts and strategies discussed in this course are applied in actual Arizona real estate transactions. These case studies will provide you with a better understanding of the challenges that arise during the closing process and the strategies that can be employed to overcome them. Additionally, role-playing exercises will help you simulate common scenarios in negotiation and closing, allowing you to practice and refine your skills in a safe and controlled environment. Whether you're working with buyers, sellers, or both, these exercises will provide you with hands-on experience and enhance your ability to handle real-life situations effectively. Real-world examples and case studies, illustrating successful closing strategies. In Arizona, real estate transactions often involve unique challenges that require tailored solutions. Here are a few real-world examples that illustrate successful closing strategies in Arizona real estate. Case study. 1. Handling title issues and closing delays. Scenario: a buyer is purchasing a home in Scottsdale, Arizona, and everything is going smoothly until the preliminary title report reveals a lien from a previous owner that was never cleared. The lien is substantial, and the title company cannot issue clear title without resolving it. Strategy. The real estate agent immediately contacts the seller's agent and the title company to investigate the lien. It turns out that the lien is related to unpaid property taxes from the previous owner, and the seller was unaware of the issue. The buyer's agent advises the buyer to allow the escrow company to handle the lien payoff as part of the closing process. Meanwhile, the seller agrees to cover the lien in exchange for a reduction in the purchase price. Outcome. Through open communication, the issue is resolved before the scheduled closing date, and the buyer receives clear title to the property. The seller successfully navigates a financial setback, and both parties are satisfied with the outcome. This case highlights the importance of thorough due diligence and the value of flexibility in negotiations when unforeseen issues arise. Case Study 2. Multiple offers and choosing the right one. Scenario. A property in Phoenix receives 3 offers on the first day it's listed. The seller is deciding between a higher-priced offer that includes a significant number of contingencies and a lower-priced offer that comes with fewer conditions. Strategy. The listing agent reviews all offers with the seller and emphasizes the benefits of the offer with fewer contingencies, including a quicker closing timeline and no inspection requests. After discussing the pros and cons of each offer, the seller decides to accept the lower offer to avoid potential delays and risk of deal collapse due to financing issues or repairs. Outcome. The seller closes the transaction quickly, and the buyer is happy with a reduced price and the opportunity to purchase a property in a competitive market. This case demonstrates the value of evaluating offers beyond price alone and focusing on other terms that could lead to a smoother, faster closing. Case Study 3. Buyer's financing delays. Scenario. A buyer is in the process of purchasing a home in Tucson. Just before the closing date, the lender informs the buyer that the loan approval has been delayed due to a missing document, putting the scheduled closing in jeopardy. Strategy. The buyer's agent immediately communicates with both the seller's agent and the escrow officer to request an extension on the closing date. The agent also works closely with the buyer's lender to expedite the missing document. Meanwhile, the seller agrees to extend the closing by a few days to accommodate the delay, ensuring the buyer has enough time to secure financing. Outcome. The buyer is able to submit the required documents in time, and the loan is approved. The transaction successfully closes with only a slight delay. This case emphasizes the importance of timely communication and flexibility in managing unexpected delays, as well as the need to set clear expectations with both buyers and sellers about potential risks. Application of learned concepts to specific scenarios in Arizona. Real estate. Understanding how to apply the concepts discussed in this course to specific scenarios is crucial for your success in closing real estate transactions in Arizona. Below are some ways to apply what you've learned. Dealing with escrow and closing delays. In Arizona, delays in closing often stem from issues related to title, financing, or inspections. If you are representing a buyer, keep the lines of communication open with the seller's agent and escrow officer to ensure that any issues are addressed promptly. If you are representing the seller, be prepared for potential delays and remain flexible, especially if the buyer is dependent on financing. Managing multiple offers. In a competitive market like Arizona, it's common for a seller to receive multiple offers. When this happens, use the strategies outlined in this course to evaluate not only the price, but also the contingencies, closing dates, and overall strength of the buyer's position. Encourage your clients to make decisions based on factors that align with their goals, whether that's a higher price, fewer contingencies, or a faster closing timeline. Navigating counteroffers. If you find yourself in a counteroffer situation, use effective communication strategies to clearly explain your client's position and work toward a mutually beneficial agreement. In Arizona, where the real estate market can be competitive, it's crucial to respond to counteroffers in a timely manner and be prepared to negotiate on both price and terms. Disclosures and legal compliance. Always ensure that your clients comply with Arizona's disclosure laws. For example, if you're representing a seller, make sure the seller's property disclosure statement, SPDS, is completed accurately and promptly. If you're representing a buyer, ensure that they are aware of their rights to review all disclosures and conduct due diligence before finalizing the sale. Role-playing exercises to simulate negotiation and closing scenarios. Role-playing exercises are an excellent way to simulate negotiation and closing scenarios in a low-risk setting. These exercises allow you to practice handling common issues that arise during the closing process, such as negotiating repairs, responding to counteroffers, or addressing delays in financing. Role-playing exercises to simulate negotiation and closing scenarios. Role-playing is an invaluable tool for real estate professionals to hone their negotiation and closing skills. By practicing these scenarios, agents can better prepare themselves for real-life situations, improving their ability to handle complex issues effectively and maintain strong relationships with all parties involved. Below, we'll fully discuss 3 essential role-playing scenarios that real estate agents frequently encounter during the closing process. Each scenario will include the situation, objective, and a detailed example to illustrate how these situations might play out in Arizona's real estate market. Scenario 1. Negotiating repair credits. Participants: buyer's agent, seller's agent. Situation: after the inspection, the buyer discovers several issues with the property that require attention. The most significant issues are a leaky roof and outdated plumbing. The buyer requests a credit to cover the cost of repairs, which could amount to several $1,000s. Objective: the buyer's agent must negotiate with the seller's agent to determine whether the seller will cover the repair costs directly or offer a credit to the buyer, which can be applied toward the repair costs. The buyer's agent needs to advocate for their client while ensuring that the deal moves forward smoothly. Detailed discussion and example. When the buyer's inspection reveals significant issues, the buyer's agent has a few options for how to approach the negotiation with the seller's agent. In Arizona, the buyer may request a repair credit instead of asking the seller to complete the repairs themselves, which can be more convenient for both parties. For example, suppose the buyer discovers that the roof needs significant repairs and the estimated cost is $5,000. The buyer's agent might present the issue to the seller's agent with the following approach. Buyer's agent: we've had the inspection done, and there are a few issues that need attention. The roof is leaking, and the plumbing is outdated. The inspection report estimates the cost of repairs at $5,000. Rather than having the seller deal with these repairs directly, the buyer would prefer a credit of $5,000 at closing, which would allow them to make the repairs after the sale. Seller's agent: I understand the concerns. However, the seller is not in a position to offer such a large credit, and we're already near the asking price. The seller is willing to offer a $2,500 credit to cover part of the roof repairs, but the buyer will need to cover the remaining costs. Buyer's agent: I understand the seller's position, but the buyer is concerned about the future costs of maintaining the roof. What if we meet halfway and the seller offers a $3,500 credit? This would allow the buyer to address the repairs without delaying the closing. Seller's agent: I think that's reasonable. I'll take that back to the seller and see if they're willing to agree to that. In this example, the buyer's agent is negotiating a repair credit that keeps the transaction moving forward without delaying the closing. The key is to maintain flexibility and stay professional while working toward a solution that benefits both parties. Scenario 2. Responding to a lowball offer. Participants: listing agent, buyer's agent. Situation: the buyer submits an offer that is well below the listing price. The offer is significantly lower than the seller's expectations, and the listing agent must craft a counteroffer that brings the price closer to the seller's desired range. While the offer is low, the listing agent must maintain a positive and professional relationship with the buyer's agent and avoid alienating the potential buyer. Objective: the listing agent needs to negotiate effectively to bring the offer closer to the seller's expectations while keeping the door open for further negotiation. This includes responding to the offer professionally and presenting a reasonable counteroffer. Detailed discussion and example. In this scenario, the buyer's agent has submitted an offer of $330,000 for a property listed at $375,000. The listing agent must respond with a counteroffer that protects the seller's interests, but at the same time doesn't turn away the buyer completely. Buyer's agent. The buyer is offering $330,000 for the property. They feel that the home is priced a little higher than similar properties in the neighborhood, so that's the offer they're comfortable with. Listing agent. I understand where the buyer is coming from, but the seller feels that the property is priced fairly, given the market and its recent renovations. We will be submitting a counteroffer for $370,000, as we believe that's a fair value given the property's features. The seller is not willing to go lower than that. Buyer's agent. I understand the seller's position, but the buyer is still hesitant about going up to $370,000 given some of the updates that are needed. Could we meet halfway at $350,000? That seems reasonable considering the market conditions. Listing agent. I'll take that back to the seller. While they're firm on the price, I think there's room to negotiate. Let's see if we can find a middle ground. In this example, the listing agent responds to a lowball offer by presenting a counteroffer that brings the price closer to the seller's expectations while maintaining a professional tone. The key here is to keep negotiations moving forward and be open to compromise without giving up too much. Scenario 3. Managing closing delays due to financing issues. Participants: buyer's agent, seller's agent, escrow officer. Situation: the buyer's financing is delayed due to a missing document from the lender, and the closing date is at risk. The buyer's agent must negotiate with the seller's agent to request an extension and ensure the transaction stays on track. Objective: the buyer's agent must work to secure an extension of the closing date while keeping a good relationship with the seller's agent and maintaining open communication. The agent must balance the urgency of securing the extension with a professional and courteous approach. Detailed discussion and example. In this scenario, the buyer's agent is informed by the lender that a missing document is delaying the financing process. The buyer's agent must request an extension from the seller's agent to prevent the deal from falling apart. Buyer's agent. I wanted to reach out regarding the upcoming closing. Unfortunately, the buyer's lender has informed us that they are missing a critical document that's delaying the approval process. We're working diligently to resolve the issue, but it's likely that we'll need an additional 5 days to close. I'm hoping we can work with the seller to extend the closing date. Seller's agent. I understand that these things happen, but the seller is eager to close on time. They've already made plans to move, and any delay could affect their next purchase. Buyer's agent. I completely understand. I've spoken with the lender, and they've assured me that this issue will be resolved within 5 days. I'm asking for just a short extension to ensure the financing goes through smoothly and the transaction can be completed without further issues. Seller's agent. I'll take that back to the seller and see if we can accommodate the extension. I'll keep you updated as soon as I hear back. In this example, the buyer's agent remains professional and transparent while requesting the extension, ensuring that the seller understands the situation. The buyer's agent emphasizes the importance of keeping the deal on track while demonstrating a willingness to work with the seller's timeline. These role-playing scenarios provide real estate professionals with an opportunity to practice common situations they may encounter during the negotiation and closing process. By practicing these scenarios, you can refine your skills, improve your communication, and build your confidence in handling various situations in Arizona's real estate market. Each scenario demonstrates the importance of clear communication, flexibility, and professionalism, which are key to achieving successful outcomes for both buyers and sellers. By mastering these negotiations, you can better navigate the complexities of real estate transactions and help clients move smoothly through the closing process. Wrap up and closing of the class. Congratulations on completing Rev Up. 12. Closing the sale. You have now gained a thorough understanding of the critical steps involved in successfully closing a real estate transaction in Arizona. We've covered essential topics from the property profile and preliminary title report to managing counter-offers, multiple offers, and the importance of clear communication and follow-up. Additionally, you've learned about the specific Arizona laws, regulations, and practices that guide real estate transactions and help ensure that deals are closed smoothly and legally. Property profile and preliminary title report. Understanding these key documents is crucial for ensuring the buyer is purchasing a property with clear title, and knowing when and why they are ordered can save time and prevent complications during the closing process. Closing settlement statement and escrow. The settlement statement serves as the final financial breakdown of the transaction, and the escrow process ensures that all terms of the agreement are met before the property officially changes hands. It's important to understand how escrow works and the role of each party in the process. Navigating the pending path. By staying proactive and keeping all parties informed, you can successfully navigate the pending period. Managing contingencies, addressing due diligence tasks, and ensuring timely responses are critical to keeping the transaction on track. Communication and follow-up. Strong communication throughout the transaction helps manage expectations and resolve issues before they become obstacles. It's essential to follow up regularly with clients and other professionals involved in the transaction to ensure that everything moves forward smoothly. Negotiation strategies. Whether you're handling counteroffers or managing multiple offers, effective negotiation is a vital skill. You must be able to balance client interests with market realities, all while maintaining a professional and courteous approach to ensure that the deal doesn't fall through. Arizona-specific laws and regulations. Arizona's real estate laws, including those related to disclosures, agency relationships, and property transfers, play a significant role in how transactions are conducted. By staying compliant with these laws and using the proper forms, you can avoid legal issues and ensure a smooth closing process. Case studies and practical applications. Through real-world examples and role-playing exercises, you've had the opportunity to practice what you've learned. These scenarios give you the chance to develop practical skills that will help you confidently navigate the challenges that arise during closing. As an Arizona real estate professional, the closing process is one of the most important stages of a transaction. It requires a combination of legal knowledge, communication skills, and negotiation strategies to ensure that everything is handled efficiently and professionally. By applying the concepts and strategies covered in this course, you'll be better equipped to handle the complexities of closing and provide your clients with a smooth and successful experience. Remember, real estate is a fast-paced and dynamic industry, and your ability to stay organized, communicate clearly, and adapt to unexpected challenges will set you apart from the competition. Keep these principles in mind as you continue to grow your career, and always be proactive in maintaining your knowledge of Arizona's real estate laws and market trends. Thank you for participating in Rev Up. 12. Closing the sale. We hope that the knowledge and skills you've gained here will serve you well in your future transactions. Best of luck as you continue to succeed in the Arizona real estate market. We encourage you to review the materials covered in this class and practice the negotiation and closing strategies we've discussed. Take time to revisit any role-playing exercises and consider how you might approach real-world scenarios. If you have any questions or need further clarification, don't hesitate to reach out. Continuing education is key to staying successful, so make sure to keep up with any updates to Arizona real estate laws and practices. Thank you again, and good luck in your real estate endeavors.